everybody. Welcome back to the Sisterhood Society podcast. So today is going to be one of our more serious topics. And I say air quotes because we don't know what to call these episodes. We're like, are they serious, more hard-hitting? Because the first 3 episodes we gave you were more silly and goofy, but we thought that there was a space for us also to talk through some experiences that we've had together and talk about some more intentional conversations. So today the topic is infertility, and this was a topic that was voted on or suggested a lot by the Sisterhood. So, but before we dive into that, we are going to start like we do every episode. And why are you smiling?
We've got Bree dragging the bag across the floor behind us.
Oh, I can't hear it, so that's good.
Oh, good, because all I could hear was
Well, you guys, if you'd like to see that exclusive of Bree dragging the orders to the hallway, subscribe to YouTube and the Rumble channel. So today we're going to start with what's good in the Sisterhood. So we'll go in birth order. We'll start with Tara, and she's going to tell us what's up.
Well, we gave up sugar for a week while we're fasting, and
we're fasting some
yeah. When was that supposed to start today?
Yes. Have you read today?
I have. I didn't realize we were starting it today.
Wow. Betrayal. I'm going to eat a caramel.
God remembers that. Don't you dare.
I thought she was. I was like, oh gosh.
Like,
okay.
Oh gosh. So we're just doing a week-long fast together and prayer, and I'm fasting from sugar.
So am I.
And I'm fasting from reading.
And Whit's fasting from reading, and she already broke it.
Because I already don't eat sugar.
I was going to say that I've been okay without it today.
Yeah, same.
So, anyway.
It's like 3:00, and you're like, I'm doing well without sugar for the first 3 hours.
She was willing in a split second to
I can't because I have to stay within my calories. So.
Nice.
Yeah, your McDonald's at lunch.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't have much for breakfast, so I worked it into my
Hey,
numbers
if you
today.
can work it into your numbers, I mean, go for it.
That's all that matters.
What else?
Okay, Whit?
What's good, man? I was not prepared for this question. And I know it's like the first one we ask. It is sunny out. That's what's good.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Whit also knows how to control Spotify from her computer into her car.
Isaac was listening. My husband was listening to Elevation's new album in our car, and I could see it on my computer because we share the same Spotify account. And I was like, I could see him using my Spotify to listen to Elevation, and he's telling me he doesn't have time to listen to our podcast. So I switched it to our podcast, and then it would pause, and then I could see him like trying to get Elevation back up, and I would press play again so that it would like go blaring through his car. And then he sent me a text and was like, are you controlling Spotify? It's like, well, yes.
Like pause, and then she'd hit play, and then we'd see pause, and then she'd hit play.
It's like, yes, I am. Why, yes, I am. You are going to listen to our podcast regardless.
He also wears headphones like all day long, doesn't he? Like have AirPods in?
He's always listening to something.
Yeah.
And while the kids are just kind of playing around him.
So my what's good, I did share on Instagram last night, so I'm sorry if this is a repeat to you guys, but I got tagged in an Instagram post a couple weeks ago from a follower, and someone from the Sisterhood was like, hey, Emily Giffen is taking Bookstagrammers like requests to get ARCs, which is called an advanced reader copy, which publishers will print like so many copies of their books, of their authors' books, to get into the hands of readers who will like review it and then share the date, like the published date, to help like bring hype. Kind of like how like a makeup company would send it to like a beauty guru on YouTube. So she tagged me in it because I hadn't seen the post yet. And I just finished one of Emily Giffen's books like a couple months ago and loved it. And she's the author of Something Borrowed, Something Blue. And those also became movies. So anyways, So you had to message her sister, who's like in charge of all of her PR. And so I DM'd her, not thinking anything would come of it. And she was like, great, all set. And I've been waiting for this package and I just got it. So you can see it on the YouTube version if you guys are following us on like YouTube or Rumble. But it's called Meant to Be, and it has the little arc like stamp on the side that says the published date. It says not for sale. I literally almost passed out when I saw this on my porch last night. I was like, oh my gosh, is it really real? So I feel like an official bookstagrammer now that I have gotten an arc, because that's like the rite of passage, is that you get books early. So
a book I would love. Meant to Be.
Yeah, you probably will. I actually, one of my girlfriends was like, oh my gosh, I want to read it too, because like Emily Giffen's not like a little author. Like she's a really big, like I read Something Blue in Something Barred and Something Blue like in like 8th or ninth grade. Like they came out when I was
a while. So did you already
14.
finish it?
No, I just got it in the mail at like 7 o'clock last night or 7:30. And I had to finish another book that I was reading, but I want to start it this tonight. I don't know why is it that, but yeah, she's usually a romance writer. So I was like, oh my gosh, that makes me feel so good inside. And I tagged her and her sister, and she messaged me. So the DMs are open. Anyways, okay. So our topic of conversation today is infertility, and Whit and Tara didn't actually necessarily struggle with infertility, though there was times when you were trying for babies, there was like a longer period of time. And so I was saying on our live video earlier, the reason we wanted to talk about this was I feel like anytime I have shared anything about our infertility journey, it opens conversation and like a unity that I wasn't really expecting. Actually, Sarah Briggs messaged me, who is an amazing jewelry designer and entrepreneur that we're friends with on Instagram. And the first time I shared about it, she like messaged me this really long message and was like, this makes me love you even more, to like feel the realness and the vulnerability like through your words and stuff. And so I feel like it's deepened relationships, because when you're going through something like harder, then you can be like, I stand in solidarity with you. Like, this is something I've experienced. So anyways, I'll try to make this not like super long and drawn out, but I thought I would share me and Phil's experience for the first time. And I'll preface with that there's some details I won't share just for privacy for Phil, but I can share as much as I actually asked him earlier today. I was like, we're going to talk about our infertility stuff today. And he's like, whatever, you can share anything. And I was like, no, like I was actually going to say I'm going to leave some stuff out. Just like if it was on my end, I would be like a tell-all. And he was like, no, I really don't care. And I was like, no, I just feel like there's some things that don't need, like out of respect for you. And he was like, well, either way, like whatever you decide is totally fine. But,
well, one thing I thought we could start with too is like, so we asked, our followers some questions about it.
Yeah.
So one of the things is like the question of, why do you think the conversation of fertility is so taboo? Like, why do you feel like people aren't as open about it, in regards to their journey? And what caused you, maybe you kind of already answered this, but what caused you to feel like you wanted to open up about it?
Oh gosh. I think it's tabooed because you think nobody else is experiencing it. Because I don't really actually have any friends currently like walking through it. And so I think there's like an emptiness that you feel like it's such a bummer. Like you don't want to share it with other people because you don't want to drag people down. And I hate being the center of attention when it comes to sad stuff. Like obviously when I'm being like goofy and stuff, it's fun to be the center of attention because my presence is a gift. Don't forget it. I'm just joking. But like when it comes to this, and like when, like even when people ask for prayer requests at Bible study, like I'm always like, I'm good. Like I don't really always love sharing because my personality is like, okay, we've been talking about me for too long. Like, let's move on. So yeah, I hate being a broken record about it. I think that's like one thing I feel really self-conscious in sharing is like every time people see me, they're like, what's new with infertility stuff? Or like, what's new with baby stuff? Like, you don't have to tell me. And it's so sweet that people ask, but I don't want to be like the center of people's pity. Like I want to be, you know what I mean? Like I so badly want to be on the other side of it right now. So I feel like one, maybe they don't want to talk about it because it's sensitive, and two, I don't want people to feel like every time they bring it up that it's like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I think that there's the same taboo feeling around miscarriage.
Totally.
They're literally growing up. You didn't, even now, you don't announce your pregnancy till at least 12 weeks till you get past like that first trimester, because there's enough possibility for miscarriage in that time frame that you don't end up talking about it. And I think that that's sad, because it is a loss, if it happens before then. And so I think that for whatever reason, there's like this stigma around some of those conversations. And I found with grief, you might find the same thing with infertility, is that when people ask you the question, like if it's not something they're going through, it's kind of like if you lose somebody after so much time, people think that you're just supposed to be okay. And
right.
Or like you just are supposed to have accepted your lot in life with infertility. And so it's almost like they don't know how to reconcile it if you are still going through it and they ask you the question and they don't know how to help because they're not going through it too. So I think it's a tough position to be in.
Well, and I think that people really, like, if you've shared, they really do feel invested, like, in your journey. And I feel like people really do feel like a part of it, like they want to celebrate it and be a part of the updates. But I feel like the weirdest part of infertility is, like, at least with, I think the reason I feel kind of silly being sad about it is, at least with a lost pregnancy, like, you actually lost something, like you have something to mourn. And it's not that I don't validate my own feelings, but I feel like I told our health coach, like, what I feel like I'm mourning the most is like the loss of time, because I don't have a baby. I haven't had a baby or a pregnancy yet that I've lost.
But it's the loss of what could be.
Right. Totally. Which was like the same with Briar. Like, we didn't know Briar, in your situation, like, we didn't know her living, but I feel like what we were sad about was that we didn't get to know her, or like we didn't get to meet her on this side of eternity. And so I think sometimes I feel kind of silly, like, having so much emotion around it, because, like I said, it's not like a tangible thing that I've lost. It's more just like the idea, or, what my life could be with a child in it. So yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah.
And just so people understand, Tara lost a baby at 24 weeks? 23 weeks, and her name was Briar. So when we're referencing Briar, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so
go ahead and start and tell your story.
Yeah, so we started talking about getting pregnant going into my 30th birthday, and for a really long time, Phil joked, like, I don't understand, like, why people want kids. Like, he would always kind of, like, my husband's a drummer and he travels, and so we were in this, like, grind mode, like, us building Royal and Reese, and him being on the road with all these different artists and stuff. And so, like, to be honest, like, thinking about having a kid during that time, like, I literally don't think we would have been able to, just because he was never home and the business was crazy back in 2018, 2019. And so there really wasn't, like, a space for it. And so I just remember praying, like, I've never been that girl that's like, when I grow up, I can't wait to be a mom. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if people felt that way when they were growing up, or had this, like, like, overwhelming desire. I always knew I wanted kids, but I wasn't like, I'm only going to be fulfilled in life if I have kids. And so I started praying, like, maybe if we're supposed to have children, that I was like, God, I just need Phil to come to me, because I don't really, like, people always say, like, when you'll know when you're ready, and I really didn't, because I was like, well, if Phil's, like, really not in the mental headspace, like, how are we going to, like, start this? And so a couple months later, we were sitting at the beach. It was the first year our family went to 30A, and the two of us were sitting at the beach. And this day, I absolutely royally, like, like fried my legs. Like, do you guys remember the fact that I couldn't walk for like 2 days?
Your
My legs
knees
were
were so bad.
so sunburned, and like I had to wear like pajama shorts because everything that touched my skin hurt so bad. But it was this day. Anyways, he brought it up and was like, randomly, I'd been reading a book for like 2 hours, and out of the blue, he just said, "At what age did my parents get pregnant with me?" At, like, no conversation about kids, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I think it was 32." And he was like, "Oh, well, I'm 30 right now." So, or he was turning 30, and he was like, "So, I think that we should start talking about that." So that was kind of like the first thing. So his heart really, I felt like, had changed on its own. And then, so we officially started trying right after the pandemic hit, actually. I'd gone to the doctor, and I'd gotten like tests done, and she was like, "You have regular periods, regular cycles, ovulation, like nothing should prohibit you from being able to start." And so we tried naturally for 9 months, I think it was. And
And I
every month
remember,
that,
I was just going to say, I remember you going into trying with the
yeah,
mentality like, we'll be pregnant by Christmas. We might have a baby
yeah,
by Christmas because of our experiences.
right. Yeah, Whit and Tara both for their first kid got pregnant and like literally the first try.
Um, for my first, it took 2 months. For my second, it was first try,
Yeah, I was going to say,
just one time.
with Brecken, it was like 3 months, but we weren't like really trying, but we weren't really inhibiting either.
And then Ever took
Yeah.
about 7 months. So Ever took a little bit longer.
Yeah, so when I went to the doctor to actually get like further tests done, it was like really discouraging. So I went first. Like we didn't have anything with Phil tested. Um,
And what caused
and
you guys to go to the doctor after 9 months? Because most people, the average time to get pregnant, they say usually is like 6 months, like 6 months of trying. So what
yeah.
caused you at 9 months to say like, I think I need to check something out?
Well, I had turned 30 and I was just kind of like, I don't really want to waste time. Like I kind of was thinking, I mean, you guys' experiences were so quick, and most of my friends hadn't had any issues. And I had had an IUD in. I had the copper one, and usually they say like it minimum usually takes 6 months. So after the 6 month mark, I was like, well, I can't really blame it on the IUD anymore. And I was tracking really faithfully with my ovulation. Like I felt like I'm not an organized person, but when it came to like ovulation, I felt like I was really trying to stay on the ball with it. Um, and Phil was home. So I kind of had this like panic of like, well, if the pandemic slows down, and he goes back on the road, like our opportunity and window to try is going to be way harder. So with him, being off the road seemed like a really good time to like give it a good go. So the doctor literally was like, I wish you would have waited a year before you came in. Like that was like the first thing she said when I was like sharing my story. And I was like, she literally gave like took a blood test. She basically was like tested one side of my thyroid, which isn't there like 9 different things you can test about your thyroid?
I think
It,
so.
and like when I ended up going to a different fertility clinic, they were like, this is like the most like half-assed blood test I've ever seen. Like she basically was just like trying to get you through the door and just like not comprehensive at all. Like nothing that she tested really made a lot of sense. But of course, everything she did test was all normal. Like I didn't have any issues. And the doctor basically was like, you would know if you had a problem because endo is really painful and you would feel it. And if you didn't have regular periods or ovulation, you would also know. And if you had a cyst, you would also know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she was like the big things, like, you would know. And you don't really know the health of your eggs unless you do IVF. So it's kind of hard to like test the health of your eggs. But if you have ovulation, like, you have eggs. So, anyways, fast forward, I started going to a fertility clinic that was like more of a holistic clinic back in the beginning of last year. And it was pretty brutal. So I was there like 2 to 3 week. I was doing a lot of like what they call like mom prep. So they do this abdominal massage and like try to prep like your organs to be loosened. And they said my organs were really like clamped, like really, really tight. And you want your ovaries to be like free flowing like jellyfish. And they said there was so much tension in like my abdomen. And then I was also getting acupuncture, tons of blood work done. nutritional panels. And the only the only thing that came back in my blood work, she was like, "You're really deficient in vitamin B, which means you're really stressed." And I was like, "Well, that's not that uncommon." And she was like, "So are 99.9% of Americans. Like, being deficient in vitamin B is like not a big deal." So the frustration was more the fact that there was like a really big gap before they really wanted to do tests on Phil, and Phil's blood work came back and like a lot of things were off, and so it raised some red flags of like what was going on with his nutrition and like all this stuff. So they put him on a special diet, which I think was another question, was like, what did we change, right?
Yes.
So they had us take out toxic products. So like we changed like our counter spray, our laundry detergent, like you name it. Like we were like body washes. That's why Senegence was like such a cool like transition, because there's not toxic ingredients in our makeup and like cosmetics. And so did all that. They put Phil on a special diet, all these specific like what do you call it? Supplements specific for like fertility health. And then
Well, you might want to interject that at that time, before they switched his diet, he had been working out with a trainer really hard.
yes.
And he was on a very strict diet at the time. And they
Yeah.
thought maybe that was attributing to some of the.
Right. And I feel like the hard thing is when it comes to sperm count, like there's essentially like no, like you have no idea why there's low sperm count. So like if that's an attributing factor to your infertility, there's like no answers. And so so they were like basically saying we're not a candidate for IUI and we're not a candidate for natural. Like there's basically no choice right now other than IVF. Which was kind of defeating, because I feel like when we went into this clinic, they were like, we had like a 96% success rate, like, or not 96, I think it was 60%, sorry. And like we, have had all these successes with pregnancies and all this stuff. And I think what they did was good work. It was just more the fact that like there's so much about fertility that's like really elusive. Like you don't really like know what's going on. And so where it stands right now is essentially Phil had a procedure done, but essentially if the procedure worked, we could hopefully be a candidate for IUI. And if it didn't, then the only option for us is IVF. And even Phil's urologist was like, basically, like where it stands right now, you can't make a baby in a bedroom. Like the best we could hope is that your numbers would be high enough for IUI. But so we're basically waiting to see if we can get tests back and see if we're a candidate. And if not, then we'll start the IVF process. So that's kind of like where it stands now. Yeah, which is like, it's like encouraging to have answers, but it's also like really depressing. And at this point, the IVF thing, it's not an expense thing for me. Like the money at some point doesn't really matter, because if you want to be a parent, like the expense of it all, like isn't it, you don't even care. You like, whatever, I'll pay $100,000 to have this baby, you would just make it work somehow to find the way to like pay for that. I think it's more just the fact that like it's just taken so long and we still don't really have like a lot of definitive answers of what's wrong.
He also did some red light therapy.
Yeah,
right?
red light therapy. There's just been a lot of like random homeopathic things that they wanted us to do. And they said too, he was like, the doctor was like, essentially if Kait has good eggs, like IVF is like insta baby, because it doesn't take a lot of troubleshooting. Like you just fertilize the baby and then that's it, or fertilize the egg that makes a baby. So we've had a couple of friends recently that have done IVF that it like basically the first take it happened, which I know isn't everyone's story. Like some people do IVF and it can take 3 rounds or it doesn't work at all. But for the most part, usually if the woman is healthy, then it's not a big issue. But the hard thing is like other than the tests I've have done, I guess I don't know if my eggs aren't healthy, but I would assume, since I don't have never had any cycle issues, that my eggs are. But yeah, so that's where we stand right now.
What is the thought of doing IVF? Like, how does that make you feel? Like where's your head at with it now?
So I don't know if I expressed this to you guys, but like the reason I did 75 hard, one, I weighed on January 1st and I was like, oh my gosh. Um, so that, and then but like, because it's a mental toughness challenge, I just wanted to prepare myself that like, if we went into 2022 and had to do IVF, like I really wasn't mentally tough. Like I was like terrified of the idea because it's so hard on your body. And I just hadn't been taking good care of myself in 2021. I had so many doctor's appointments and so much turmoil and like so much emotional stress that I just didn't feel like I was in a place where like I could handle it. Like truthfully, I was like, I don't know if I'll survive IVF. So I knew that it was like a looming possibility for us to do IVF as the next step. The hormone piece of it really scares me because I think I'm actually allergic to hormone output. So that part of it, like I really like you have to give yourself shots in the like I
Abdomen.
forget what that muscle is, progesterone muscle on the like on your butt and then in your stomach, yeah. And you do that up until you're 10 weeks pregnant, even after like the egg takes.
Is it
But yeah,
progesterone muscle?
there's like a muscle that's like produces progesterone in your butt, isn't that right?
Oh,
What?
that's news to me.
Yeah. Interesting. I was
I
like
thought,
a progesterone.
or maybe you're putting progesterone into that muscle. I don't know.
That's
Yes.
what it is.
I was like,
sorry.
there's not a muscle that produces progesterone.
Sorry,
It's definitely.
I said that really backwards.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so yeah, I feel now that I've done 75 hard, I feel really strong. Like, if you guys don't know what it is, it's like a workout challenge, but they call it a mental toughness challenge. So you have to do 2 workouts a day, and one has to be outside. And so Tara and I have walked in like negative wind chill advisories and like snow and ice and rain and like every single weather condition you could think of. Like I just walked in like a tornado warning a couple days, like just crazy. So, and it has all of these like checkpoints of things that you have to do each day. And so it just makes you really like, disciplined in this like season that you're doing it. And so, I feel like that has helped me a lot with the idea of like going into a season that's going to be really hard.
Do you want to talk through like the piece of like that monthly, like taking the test and not having, you know, like thinking like, okay, my period's delayed, I'm going to take the test, and having those, like, do you want to talk through those emotions of what that's like?
Yeah, so I actually had to get vaccinated for Phil's job, to be able to visit him when he was on tour last fall. I shouldn't say I had to, but it was recommended. I wouldn't have been able to visit him in New York. And so my period changed, which is a symptom, I think, of the vaccine. And so my period's been late like every single month. And so actually the night before our cousin's wedding, my period is always like the same day. And it was like 4 or 5 days late. And so I text my sisters, and Whitney's like, Isaac's at the grocery store. Do you want me to ask him to get you a pregnancy test? And this was like 9:30 at night in October. And I was like, sure. And Isaac was so cute. Like he came downstairs and he's like, he hands me the test and he goes, I hope it's the one. And he like hands me the test. And he was like, but seriously, no pressure. Like you don't have to tell us like if it's yes or no, like whatever. And he was like super nice about it. And, it was just really cute because he was like so excited, like, oh, I hope it's the time, and like hand me the test. And obviously it was negative. So some months I'm like completely fine. And then some months I'm like undone and like have like so many emotions. And a friend of ours who struggled with infertility, he's made the comment and said, if he's like, the only way I can explain it is that it feels like an appointment with devastation each month. And he's like, it's like a reminder that there's no life in your womb. And I was like, that's exactly how it feels. Like if you don't compartmentalize it, like I think it's almost unbearable to keep doing. And when you've been doing it for 2.5 years, it just gets to the point where you're like, do I even want to keep doing this? Like it's just so exhausting to like feel like, because as many times as you've done it, you still always want to have hope. You know, like there's a piece of you every month that you're like, well, what if? And last month. This is so embarrassing, but I read the box wrong. I got like a new pregnancy test, and what was it? It said if it had a cross, you're not pregnant, but if you had two lines, you are. And I thought the cross meant I was pregnant. And so my heart literally felt like it was going to like pump out of my chest. Like when I saw the cross, like I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe, like, is this real? And so then I like wash my hands and like run out to the bedroom and like look at the box. And then I realized that I had read it wrong. But the adrenaline of thinking I was pregnant then made me cry, because then I was like, it reminded me of that episode of Friends when she's like, now you know how you really feel. Like when Phoebe tricks Rachel, like it literally was like that. I was like, oh my gosh, I must really be happy about this. But it was just like, it was awful. Like I've never felt my heart like sink like that before. And so, like to actually be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this finally is it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and just even in the little time that it took for us to get pregnant, if it, you know, didn't happen right away, the like tracking your cycle, okay, these are the days I'm ovulating. Okay, here's the days that we need to try. And then like knowing, okay, here's how many more days before I can start checking. And then you start
So
checking and it's too early.
exhausting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's super exhausting, especially when the answer is a no. And we didn't even have that happen a lot, you know,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
can only imagine mentally what it does to you, because it's just, because then you're like, okay, well now this cycle's done and now I have to wait, you know, until it happens again. And then, you know, you just start all through the process all over again. So when
Yeah.
you're going through that for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years or more, I mean, I can understand why you have the feeling of, I don't want to keep doing this.
Well, and I can understand too. It's almost like triggering, like your intimacy, like the times that you're intimate could almost be triggering, or could almost start feeling like a chore, or you're just kind of like, ugh,
Yeah.
like this is like just a reminder of like what we're going through. So I can understand everything in regards to that would be really exhausting, just mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, I think the intimacy part of it has like gotten better, but in the beginning it was so annoying because you're just like, oh my gosh, I have a solid smiley, like it's a peak day, and you're you're like, so that's, you know what that means. And like there was certain seasons where we were tracking it with this fertility clinic, and they were like, cancel all your plans this week. You're not going anywhere. Your body needs to be relaxed. Like, you know what I mean? Like
That
almost like
that alone
baby
is
making quarantine.
But that alone is just stressful too. Like
Yeah.
not just fitting it into your life and whatever. That alone, just like having the stress of like, okay, I have to make sure I'm home and I'm resting. Like
Yeah.
that can add just another layer of stress to the whole situation.
And like when you're an entrepreneur, it's synonymous with stress. Like you can't run your own business, especially during like a World War III and just like a pandemic, without feeling like some sense of like uncertainty and stress. There's just always going to be things that are going to come up in a business. And so like as much as we, I think, handle things gracefully with our business, there's always going to feel like a layer of stress there. So I can't really, I'm not really one of those people that can be like 100% zen at all times.
And I think the more you try to tell yourself to be stress-free, the more stressful it becomes. Like I feel like, I feel like that's why so many times you see that when people have decided to go ahead and move forward with adoption, that they end up getting pregnant naturally. Like, you know, that happens a decent amount, because I think you finally are like, you've taken the pressure off yourself and decided, okay, we're moving forward. And then your body, you know, your body can do what it needs to do. So it's just I just think it's almost like, it's like telling yourself that you're going to go on a diet and then you just sabotage yourself the entire time, because all you want to think about is all the food you can't eat, you know?
All the caramels we can't have.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least sit here on my desk.
I think the thing emotionally or even spiritually that I feel that I struggle with the most, which I'm sure this is like such a cliche answer, is that like if you have a really close relationship with the Lord and you're like letting your requests be known to the Lord, or you're asking like the why, like I don't understand the why of the timing of it, because there's really like nothing in my life that's not aligned with being able to become a parent. And maybe 4 years ago, like yeah, like the business was booming and crazy and wild and just growing to the point where it was like crazy and Phil was gone all the time. Like I could see that being bad timing, but people don't really like line up their lives perfectly when they get pregnant.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's been so many times where I've been in prayer where I've been like, is there something else I'm supposed to be doing? And so a funny and cool thing that happened recently is my husband was filling in with our friend Russell Dickerson, and I went to a show, and I was on 75 hard, so I wasn't drinking, and my friend Kaylee was like, she she was like, do you want something to drink from the bar? And I was like, oh, I'm not drinking. And she was like, why? And I was like, well, one, I'm doing 75 hard, and two, I'm ovulating, and I don't usually like to drink while I'm ovulating. And she was like, okay. And then like a couple minutes later, this show's going on, and Kaylee like leans into me and she's like, I just want you to know that God is leading me to tell you that you don't have to earn it, and like that this baby is going to be a gift, and it's not like something that you're going to have to do or to change, or like you don't have to keep like overanalyzing your life and thinking like, oh, if I just stop drinking this will happen, which I didn't associate those two things, but she was just using that as an example. And of course I was like super teary, because I feel like when the Lord is sharing something with you and someone gets a word for you, it's usually confirmed by somebody else. Like, but Whitney had said the same thing to me like a year ago when we were moving into this house. And so, um, and so that was like so crazy, because I told her later, I was like, that's actually insane. I was like, the reason I got emotional was because Whitney had shared the same thing with me, because I'm a 2 wing 3 on the Enneagram. So like achieving, um, like achieving or like trying to figure something out or strategize like is my personality type. And so I was doing so good up until this point.
Sorry, I did it. It started with me.
So I think that uh, I think that the fact that I can't control it is what drives me crazy. Because if there was something I could have done, I would have done it by now. Well, and I have. I think that's the thing that stinks, is like I've like prayed all the prayers of like, God, like I'm surrendering it. Like I really feel like I haven't held it tightly. Even to the point where a couple months ago I was at the office and Tara was like, where are you at with it right now? And I was like, I'm done. Like I really had like given up. Like I remember looking at you and being like, I'm kind of convinced it's not for me anymore. Oh, I hate the way I sound when I cry. Hang on. um so yeah, I think that that's the thing that I've struggled with the most, is like to continue to keep joy, to be joyful in a season where you don't understand like the no or the weight of something. And I think that's the thing that like doesn't make any sense, because I feel like there's nothing in our life that is preventing it from happening. um and I'm in a season where all my friends are pregnant, and I get asked literally constantly like, how is it going to baby showers, and like how is it like. And I said, I was like, it's weird that like I feel like the Lord has helped me separate the two, because I know what a gift it is to like have a baby. And so I would much rather be in a season of celebration than the alternative for my friends. Like, I don't want anyone to feel this. So I would much rather get to go and like celebrate the gift of life than have the perspective of like jealousy or, like feeling like every baby shower I'm going to, I'm just going to cry when I get home. Because when I go, I don't feel that way. And like, I literally hosted one last week and went to one. Like, I went to two in 24 hours. And I'm hosting two more in the next 2 months. Like, it's just a season of like plentiful babies in my friend groups. And so, um, yeah, I just feel like that's the only thing that I like feel sad about is I feel like the people around me are moving forward without me.
You One thing I will say that I've admired about you during this process, though, is that, like you said, you have been able to find joy for others in the midst of your own sorrow. Like, I think
Yeah.
that that's really hard to do. It's hard not to, whether it's financial struggles, infertility, moving up in your career, to watch your friends succeed and you not, is hard not to covet that. And so I think it's been very admirable that you have been able to still be like encouraging and supportive and happy for your friends, truly, even though it hasn't happened for you yet.
Right.
But the one thing that I feel like that has been cool is that your friends have spoken over you a lot of words from the Lord.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're comfortable sharing more of those, but I thought that that would be neat to also share, that you've had a ton of words from the Lord about that it is coming. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of when.
Oh gosh, wasn't there one with Mom and like Savannah? I can't even remember what it was now. There was one where Mom told me to go read a scripture about Hannah and Samuel and how like she had dedicated the baby
Did
to,
you call it Savannah?
no, Savannah, our old employee,
Oh, I
like
thought you
also
were
shared a word with
combining.
me.
I thought you were combining Samuel and Hannah together. I was like,
No.
what?
No, sorry. Mom had like said, I have a word for you. Like I was
Yes,
reading
sorry.
in for Samuel about the story of Hannah and Samuel. And um what was crazy is like literally the next day our previous order manager Savannah texted me and was like, I don't know why, but I felt like I need to share this with you, that you've been like super heavy on my heart, and like when I went to pray for you, the Lord wanted me to remind you about the story of Hannah and Samuel. And like when I was texting my friend Sky about something with the business this past, or was that yesterday? She was like, anytime that God tells you something and then he confirms it with someone else, it means he's doing it. And so there's just been so many stories of that. Like Whitney got a vision when we were moving to our house that there was this room that was pink and it had like these rays of sunshine coming in through like the front windows and stuff. And so, actually, you didn't know it was pink,
It was like a
right?
soft, it was a really, really, really soft, like coral color. But it
Yeah.
was just like this. I was sitting in the middle of just like peace. Like I
Yeah.
woke up and I was just like fully at peace. It was like the coolest vision.
And then Whitney, when she came to help me move and like decorate the house when we moved into this new house, she I was like showing her the tour of the house and we went into the front room and I was like, this will be the baby room. And she was like, oh, this is the room I saw in my vision. And she was like, oh, you're going to have a girl. And I was like, and it was just really cool how like it like that was what you had seen in your vision, was that room. And what's funny is that room is in the front of the house and it's actually where the sun shines into the house. And so it was like very
And I hadn't seen your house up
yeah.
until that point. I mean, I knew like where the bedrooms were and stuff because you like FaceTimed us, but like I didn't know that that was going to be your nursery. I didn't know that the sun shone through the
Yeah.
windows. Like it was just really cool.
I've gotten like so much prophecy, even down to things specifically where people are like, I had a vision of you being at a pumpkin patch holding a newborn. And I was like, that's literally the best thing you could ever tell me. It's like me being at a pumpkin patch is like my favorite thing, like fall. I was like, oh my gosh, I literally could not have imagined a better dream for me, is like me holding a baby at a pumpkin patch. So it's just been like crazy how many people have spoken into it. And um, my friend Cami was on my friend Kaylee's podcast and she had mentioned a miscarriage. And I think I've shared this before. I shared it on Instagram. But she had said, when it comes to like getting to know the Lord, like the Lord in like so many facets of like names like Father, Friend, Savior. But she was like, when you're going through something hard, you get to know him as Comforter. And unless you've gone through like a season of loss or a season of hardship, like you don't get to know like that side of God. And so like I don't know what it was, but that like struck me like a ton of bricks, where I was like, that's exactly how I feel like I'm getting to know like a face of God, that it's almost like a gift to get to know him in that way, because it was so different than the other assets of my relationship with the Lord, I guess, or the
Yeah.
other facets. I mean,
I actually, during one of my devotions last week, there's a phrase that popped out to me from my Bible, and it was saying how when you go through deep, deep trials and like tribulation, it produces deep and high praise. So it's like you can't know one without knowing the other.
yeah,
It's really interesting. I feel like we can all attribute that we have just felt so much closer to God with even just in the last 7 years
oh
of
my
what all we've
gosh,
gone
yeah,
through.
I
yeah,
also think too, one of the things that I always acknowledge now, um, when I had Brecken and had absolutely no issues with my pregnancy, you don't even think about a loss as a possibility. You just expect to get pregnant and end up at the end with a baby. And when I miscarried between Brecken and Briley, it was right before I got a chance to hear the heartbeat. And it was really random because you offered to come with me to my appointment because Brian couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually said, just in case you get bad news. And I was like, why would I get bad news? Like, it didn't even cross my mind that would be the case. And then it was bad news that we couldn't find a heartbeat. But from that point forward, every pregnancy, being able to hear the heartbeat was something that made me bawl every single time, because it was knowing that I hadn't been able to on that one that I lost, that you are so much more grateful when you do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see other people make it all the way to 40 weeks after the loss of Briar, like, it's always a praise. You just realize what a true miracle it is to get from, conception to birth and them being here without issue.
yeah,
So yeah, it just makes you all the more grateful for the process.
yeah.
When you've been through the desert.
I actually, what were we gonna say?
Sorry.
Maybe I need to like dry up a little bit. But I was just thinking, like, you love a good party. And how, like we just said, if you go through like really deep trials, how your praise and celebration is going to be so deep on the other side. Sorry, I'm bringing down the house. It's amazing.
No, not at all.
But how, when you do get pregnant, what a party that's going to be because of what you've gone through.
That reminds me of two things. One of the cutest stories in the world is when Phil got the Kelsey gig. Our family was like on pins and needles for the phone call because Phil had just like had been through the ringer when it came to like advances in his career. It just felt like he was at like a stagnant place, and everyone's like, how is he so good and not like landed a big gig?
Over.
Yeah, passed over. I mean, I remember in one like winter period when auditions were happening before people were going back on the road, he had like 9 auditions that were like all no, and it was just like so defeating. And it's become this like joke in our friend group because Phil literally told everyone he was going to become an accountant, and we were like, what? And he was like, I'm just going to become a CPA. And I remember Phil's mom was like, honey, you have to get a like a degree for that. Like, you can't just become like an accountant. Like, and like to the point where he like it wasn't happening for so long that he was doubting his purpose. And the sweetest thing was Vicky texted him that night, and his mom, and she said, you're a drummer, sweetie, you always have been, don't forget it. And just like being there in that moment of weakness and just like reminding him like, no, like this is what you've been called to, this is like what God is like purpose for your heart, like don't stray from it. And she probably doesn't even remember it, but I just remember it being so impactful. And so Phil auditioned for Kelsey, and it was down between him and this other guy, and we knew it was down to the two of us, or us and this guy. And so he was told he was going to get a phone call on this certain day, and we were driving back to Bloomington for Christmas from Nashville. And every time Phil's phone buzzed, we were like, is it him? Like, blah, blah, blah. And we like kept freaking out. And so It was like 6:30. I feel like if Chris Wright heard this, he would like laugh, like that we were waiting for him to call us for so long. But like it was like 6:30 and we were going into the steak place with my family.
We were already all in there.
You guys were in
waiting.
there, and he had texted, I said he just got the call because like I didn't know what, and so you guys didn't know what it was. But I just remember when Phil was talking to him and he like got offered it, he was like, that is so awesome. And like, you know, he's like, thank you so much. And then the second he hangs up, I remember Phil like punched the steering wheel and then started sobbing. Like he was just like in so much like shock and surprise and just like, I cannot believe it's finally come to this moment. Like, first of all, Phil's cried literally twice in my entire like 12 years and 14 years of knowing him. And that moment, like I just remember he like leaned over in the car, like over the console to me and like just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed into my shoulders. And like that moment of getting to like finally call his parents, and like we walked into was it Jim's Steakhouse?
Oh, it was Alexander.
Alexander's.
We were all just standing there like, is it going to be like, if it's bad news, you guys don't have to come in.
I know.
Well, all of your eyes were glossy. Like all of you guys were already crying. Like you didn't even know if it was yes or no. And you were all like, I just remember your eyes were so big and Phil didn't say anything, but he just put his arms up in the air like this. And then we all just started sobbing. And like our whole table is cheering. My dad like jumps up and everyone's giving Phil hugs. And I just remember Dad didn't know Kelsey's name and he'd be like, my son-in-law is going to play for Kelly Ballerina. It was like so cute. Her name's Kelsey Ballerini and he's like, he's going to play for Kelly Ballerina. Like he's just so proud. It was so cute. But anyways, like it was the same thing where you've like sown so many prayers and like really walked the walk of faith, and after so long you're like, why isn't this happening for me? And so I agree, like I do feel like there's this season of like really truly not understanding, like getting to the point where you're kind of like what I said to you, like am I done? Like is this just not my story, you know? Like is this just not part of our journey? And I shared this on Instagram too, but I think it's important to share again because not everybody follows me on Instagram. But a couple months ago, I was hanging out with my mom because my parents, our parents moved here from California a couple years ago. And so they live like a mile from my house now, which is just the weirdest thing ever to like live your whole life away from them and then be so close. But my mom was asking, she was like, what's the update? Like, how are you feeling? And I said, you know, it's really hard because I have people that message me almost daily saying like, I'm praying for you. And she's like, what's wrong with that? And she's like, what does that make you feel? And I said, it makes me feel like I don't deserve it. And she was like, why do you feel that way? And I was like, I don't know. I just feel like it's so many people and it's so much focus on me. And sometimes it feels like and anyways, my mom stopped me and she was like, have you ever realized that like it's not for you? Like that it's not supposed to just be for you? And I was like, I don't know what you mean by that. And she was like, when God prompts you to pray for someone, a lot of the time it's because he's trying to strengthen their faith because they're praying into something that they're really believing in. And so if you're praying for change or for movement or for some sort of like breakthrough, when they get to see the breakthrough and they get to see the positive pregnancy, they're going to feel just as elated for you because they got to see the miracle too. And they felt like they were a part of it and like the catapult to the change. And I was like, isn't it so like God where he's like, can you think outside yourself for a second? It's not just about you. Like these prayers are also for them, but also that like she just said too, like, I feel like there's sometimes especially when it comes to fertility that like, I don't know what else to pray. Like how many times can I be like, I'm ready. I receive it. Like I've surrendered. Where I'm like, I feel like I'm repeating the same thing over and over again. So do I, like, sometimes I'm kind of like, should I just, like, God already knows, like, should I keep praying? And Mom was like, sometimes he sends other people to pray for you because you can't pray for yourself. And, like, I fully feel like that has been where I've been at. Like, it's hard for me to continue to ask for it when for so long the answer has either been no or wait or not yet, you know? So that was a really good perspective shift for me, that like your prayer life isn't just for you, or like when someone's praying for you, like it's cool to see that like that miracle is not just for the person you're praying for.
So to kind of wrap it up,
Yes.
one of the last questions was, how can your friends support you through the infertility journey?
I think people get afraid to ask, and I don't mind that people ask. I just more internally feel, like I said earlier, I hate feeling like a broken record. Like I'm always like, oh, I hate the focus always being on me in that capacity, because I don't want people to feel like they have to pity me. And I definitely don't want people to think that they have to like tiptoe around me in conversation about like talking about birth or their kids or whatever. Some days it's hard, like not because I don't want to hear about it, but because I don't have anything to contribute. Because unless I'm talking about you guys' births, which I'm sure you don't appreciate me discussing your vaginas with other people, like I don't really have anything to say. So it's more hard because I can't contribute to the conversation. So I just sit in silence. And then I think people can like pick up on that and feel like, oh, maybe we should change the subject. So I hate that feeling of like people being like, oh, we shouldn't talk about the fact that I am trying or like had no issues because we don't want to hurt Kate's feelings. So I would much rather have people talk about it freely and not have to stress about how I'm feeling. Yeah, I guess prayer is like the most important thing. And it does mean a lot to me when people check in and say like I was at a sprinkle, which is when you shower someone for their second baby, right? Or just in general.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom, my friend who was the mom to be, she was like, what's your plans for this weekend? And I was like, I'm actually going to a baby shower in the morning too. And she was like, okay, like, how are you? And she was like, she's like, I know that you've been to like 4 this month. Like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I really appreciate you asking, honestly, but I feel okay. And like all of my book club friends are like the sweetest. And like when they got pregnant, they like sidebar texted me and was like, I'm about to announce this to our group chat. And I wanted to tell you that like I see you and want you to feel heard. Then like I'm sorry, like I don't want this to like be a trigger. And I was like, it's not at all. Like even to the point where when my cousin Katie told us she was pregnant, like we prayed so much over baby Judah. Like when I got to meet him, I like bawled, and I like was like I like surprised myself with my reaction. I was like, oh my gosh, he's here, and like I'm holding him. Like it was just such a weird. Like, I don't even know if I cried with you guys as babies. I think I did with Ever.
Yeah, you did with Ever.
No, I cried the whole day after I met Ever. It was the weirdest thing literally ever. I could not stop crying after I met baby Ever. And Phil was like, are you okay? Like, what is going on? We drove back to Nashville, and I cried almost the entire trip back, to the point where I got like a cry headache, you know, and that like.
But you said that was the point that you realized you wanted to be a mom.
Yeah, I think that's something like shifted when I held her. Like it was like, I forgot I said that. Thank you for reminding me. Now I'm going to cry all over again. Yeah, like I remember like the video of her when I put it to the tune of that Icelandic band.
Oh yeah. Sigur Rós.
It was so emotional, and I was like, why am I doing this to myself?
That's like literally one of the most emotional songs, because it's like set to like melodic piano music. You can't understand what they're saying, but it's just like soft.
It's so beautiful. I know. Anyways, yeah, so I remember watching videos of her and like pictures that I had taken at the hospital, and like I felt I still can't get enough of Ever, but she's had enough of me.
She probably actually would be very open to you right now, because she loves having an audience. So
yeah, I'm just kidding. She was just more shy. But yeah, I do remember that moment being really emotional. But
so
yeah.
Where do you feel like the next step is for you?
Yeah, I think even though I get emotional, it's not because I don't feel hope in the moment. Like, I think that it's just emotional to talk about, because I don't feel sad about where I'm at right now. I feel sad about the time lost. Like, does that make any sense? Like, I don't feel like down in the dumps about my journey. And after Phil's procedure, I felt like a lot of hope with the doctor that we are working with. Super weird, but very nice guy. It's just like, you know how sometimes doctors are like really quirky. He's just goofy. But like he said a lot of really encouraging things the last time we met with him, and I just felt like it was a really good step in the right direction. I guess I feel like I'm at a place where I'm just really ready for whatever's next. And
what is next? Like, what do you...
So, well, yeah, so we're getting test results in April, and if they're good, it'll kind of like make our decision on whether or not we could keep trying naturally or do IUI, or if we should make the final push to do IVF. But just because IVF is such an expensive and like invasive procedure, they want to just like see, so we can get tested in like beginning of April. So that's kind of like where we're at right now. So yeah, I guess hopefully the next time we podcast about this, I'll have good news. Maybe my reveal should be on the podcast to make them listen.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun to just like include all the people that have been like praying for you, you know.
Totally.
It's our little party.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we are going to end with one random question.
One weird question.
Yes. Do you guys want me to start? Because I feel like mine's funny.
You
Okay,
start
yeah.
because I don't have mine yet.
Okay, so we have said in the past that we feel like get to know you questions are really boring. And so we want to do some that are really off the wall so you can get to know us better if you're new to us, or if just things you wouldn't normally hear us talk about. So my question is for you guys. What's the weirdest thing you've done, or the craziest thing you've done in the name of love? Like someone you dated or like you liked? Like something
name of
crazy
love.
you've done.
In the name of love. That just threw me off because I'm like, wait.
That was the question I found. I didn't come up with that, but I thought it was a good one.
The craziest thing I've done for someone I liked?
Yeah, like someone you're interested in, or...
I mean, I dated Isaac for 2.5 years, long distance. California to Illinois. I feel like that was pretty weird.
Yeah.
It worked out, though.
Winnie was supposed to get an email from Isaac like every day at a certain time, and there were words if I was on the computer at the time she was supposed to check her email, because we had like one family computer, and we would like get in full on brawls if she was like, I need to check my email.
Okay, wait.
I know one.
Let me just confirm here. You know how chatty Kait is? Like, she's got 1,000,001 friends. So she's like, goes and talks to every friend that she just hung out with at school. And I have a boyfriend that is 2,000 miles away that I only hear from in one email a day.
I know something in the name of love.
Oh, no. Is this
created-
gonna... Wait, hold on. Is
It's
this
not
gonna
embarrassing.
embarrass me?
No.
Okay.
You created Cheese Day.
Oh.
That's such a weird thing to talk about.
Okay, the more we do this podcast, I think the more our audience is going to realize that I'm the weird one out of the three of us.
Whitney is so weird. Her and Isaac together are very strange. And like the first example that I will give you is Whitney and Isaac used to have a dog named Davy. They named the dog Dave after our dad, Dave.
But she was a girl.
But she was a girl. But Isaac changed Dave's name, and so he would call her Dave Renee Mitt Romney Strong. So her name was Dave Renee Mitt Romney Strong. But like when he would get mad at the dog, he'd be like, Renee! Yell Renee instead of Dave.
And literally, there's like no association to these names. Oh, obviously, like Mitt Romney was because like the election at the time, but like
it was just like
we're so weird.
And you used to have like,
So talk about Cheese Day.
yeah, talk about Cheese Day.
I don't know why Cheese Day evolved. It was probably something random, like some random joke, and we were like, oh, we should dedicate a whole day to cheese. And so I made our grandma's chicken cheese chowder. I made cheesecakes, cheesy potatoes, like literally anything cheese. Just that, and that was the full meal. So you can imagine the rest of the week what our digestive systems were like.
Wasn't it like February 3rd?
It was like January 4th, I think.
Oh, I was thinking it was February. That is
No, it
so
was-
You
funny.
did it more than 1 year.
We did, and I don't know why.
I was
You
I
made
was
it
part
an
of the yeah, I
annual
was part of the third annual. I remember.
Yeah, we haven't done that in a while. I
You
kind of
should bring
forgot.
back.
I kind of forgot how weird we used to be, and then we had kids, and then we just got kind of more normalized. But we were more fun before we had children.
It's funny.
I made a cow cake for someone.
I was literally gonna say if you didn't
I
suggest
feel
that.
like Tara really went above and beyond.
And I had to try it. I had to do a trial run to make sure that I got it right. And so I made it, and Whit and Isaac were over, and I came down the next morning, and like a lot of the
We
cake
ate,
was missing,
like, all of it.
like the butt and like a lot of the back end. And I was like, Whit, did you guys eat like half the cake? And she's like, I only ate a hoof.
I ate one hoof.
That's
So,
funny.
but anyway, what did you?
Okay, I don't know if this is crazy. It's really not that crazy, but it's the only thing I can think of. So I didn't really ever have like an official boyfriend, one because our dad wouldn't allow us to date like when we were in high school. And so I didn't.
We had to be 16.
Yeah,
when we
but
started
even when
dating.
I was 16, he wasn't like thrilled about the idea. But
I remember I turned 16 and I looked around. I'm like, yay, I'm ready to date. And then I was like, oh, no one wants to date me.
I know, as if
you wouldn't.
I was gonna
Oh,
say,
thank
as if
God
there was
for
like
Mom.
all these guys like lined up, being like, okay, her 16th birthday is in June, so we're ready. But once I met Phil, this is so cheesy, but like, you know how people always say like, you'll know when you know you're in love,
Sure.
or you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
they'll say
you know
like
when
you
you
can,
know.
yeah, you know when you know. So, this story is gonna make us sound like the biggest cheese balls, but one of Phil's friends came home with him for the weekend from Nashville, and I still lived in Bloomington, and we were doing school like long distance. And she had told us that when her parents wanted to say "I love you" inaudibly, they would squeeze each other's hands 3 times. So like, "I love you." So a couple nights
Thank
later,
you for the illustration.
you're welcome.
I wasn't picking up what you're putting.
I love you. Watch on YouTube for the full effect and subscribe. So a couple nights later, we were watching a movie with his family, and he squeezed my hand 3 times, which was like so cute. So anyways, that was like 3 or 4 months in, and I felt like I knew that I was in love, but I didn't want to say it first because I was just kind of like, he should say it first. So for Valentine's Day, this is going to sound like really dumb, but I felt like I wanted to say it, but I didn't know, like I felt like I really wanted to say it, but I didn't know how to say it. And I remember that Phil had started balding, and I accidentally said on the phone, he was like, maybe I'll shave my head. And instead of saying, I was supposed to say, I love your hair, but instead I said, I love you. And then he was like, what? And I said, I mean, I love your hair. And like, I like corrected myself, and I was like, oh crap, that was so not smooth. And then, so for Valentine's Day, there was like a picture that I had put in a frame, and I had wrote on the back of the picture, I said, Phil, I wanted you to know that I'm in love with you. I've been wanting to tell you for so long. But didn't know how, and then like, or something along those lines. And then I said like, I love you and always will, but I put it on the back of the photo. So 2 months later, I was in Nashville visiting him, and he said it to me for the first time in like the weirdest place ever. It was in the stairwell of his dorm, which was like so unromantic. And he like whispered it because he was like super nervous. He was like, I love you. We were 18, first of all, like, let me preface this, like, so young. And so I got in the car, and I like drove with his parents because that was like the only way I was going to and from Nashville. And I texted him from the car and said, go upstairs to the photo I gave you from Valentine's Day and flip it over. And
Aww.
I know. And so then I had it on the back. So technically I said it first. And so ever since then, he's had it flipped to the other side, and it's like been in his studio room or his desk.
Precious.
I know.
I forgot. So you know how Isaac and I had National Cheese Day is what we called it. We had this like big stuffed animal that we got in Kroger. It was like a stuffed
I
tiger
forgot about
or
that.
cheetah. And we called it Cheese the Cheetah. because I don't know, made an appearance on Cheese Day, I guess. We're weird.
I forgot about Cheese.
Yeah.
Cheese the cheetah.
When Isaac proposed to me, he brought Cheese the cheetah in his car. He came over to my driver.
That is so weird.
I never tell people this.
I have never heard this part of the story.
I never tell people this because it just is a test.
He has a ring around Cheese's neck.
No, he had the ring in the glove compartment and had me like opening it. And as I was like opening it, he came around the driver or my passenger side door with Cheese the cheetah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. We still have Cheese the cheetah. Our kids play with it.
Oh my word, that is so funny.
So one thing that I did, and I was thinking when I first started dating Brian, within the first 2 weeks of knowing him, I started a scrapbook. And I had a calendar for every single month and wrote down all the dates that we had. And I wrote him a letter every month that we dated for the first year. And then the scrapbook like documented like our first year together. I just started that within 2 weeks of knowing him. So
on a scale of 1 to 10,
nice.
How many of those letters did he read?
So this is the funny part about that. He didn't.
Oh,
So
no.
I gave it to him on our first anniversary. And he like, I'm not sure if he ever even looked through the entire scrapbook. Okay. So we just on our 10th wedding anniversary, we went out for our anniversary and I was like, we should look back through this. It'll be kind of fun to like reminisce. And I went through like every envelope and not a single one of them were opened except the last one. In 10 years, he never read the letters.
Oh,
He was like, Tara, I got to wash my hands first.
Yes. I gotta pee.
Just kidding. I got to
Oh my
pee.
gosh.
Every time Tara's like, can you change the baby? Can you grab the kids like sippy cups? He's always like, Tara, I got to wash my hands first.
I gotta
He's
wash
like,
my hands. I gotta go to the bathroom. I need to run outside and grab the mail. I need to check the outs. I
He's
need to
got
check
a running list.
Yes,
He's like,
always.
this is not top priority
No,
right now.
never. There's always more
That's
things.
so funny.
Okay,
Oh my
so
gosh. Well,
we might need to end on that one.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we've expired our time.
thank you guys so much for watching us on and listening to Sisterhood Society podcast. We love that we have this platform now to talk to you guys about all the things under the sun. If you liked what you heard, please leave a review, download our podcast, and give us a 5-star rating, please. And make sure to subscribe on YouTube too. I need to come up with a script. Hope you enjoyed it. We love you guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.